Hello and welcome to Gibeon Hadashah. Gibeon Hadashah is a small settlement about 10 kilometers northwest of Jerusalem. What famous event happened here on the 13th of Adar? What holiday was created to commemorate that event? And how did that day later become what we know it as Ta'anit Esther? So first of all, I used to think that this place was just named after one ancient city. Gibeon Hadashah means the new Gibeon, but actually it's named after two places, because in the Second Temple period there was a town here known as Hadashah. So it actually doesn't not just named after Gibeon, but also after that town of Hadashah. Here's the entrance sign to Gibeon Hadashah. It mentions the two ancient places it's named after. And getting to the famous thing that happened here, it was a battle that was won by Judah Maccabee. It was several years after the rededication of the temple and the story of Hanukkah. The Maccabees had suffered a few major setbacks. They lost an important battle down in the area of Gush Arzion at Beit Zechariah, where Elazar Maccabee was crushed by an elephant. They had to retreat from Jerusalem, relinquish control of the temple, and they fled back into the hills of Gofna, which are actually behind me to the north. And they actually also lost a lot of their support among the Jewish people, because Antiochus IV had already died, and all the subsequent kings of the Seleucid Empire decided that they were going to allow the Jews to simply observe their religion as they saw fit. They saw it was a mistake to outlaw Jewish practice in the first place. So all the supporters of the Maccabees said, all right, the fight's over, we got what we want, no need to continue the struggle. But Judah Maccabee and a few of his loyal supporters continued the fight. They said, no, we're going to continue. God is on our side. We'll fight until we have independence, until we have Jerusalem under our control, and we can do whatever we want. So the Seleucids, needless to say, were furious about this, and the general that was in charge of suppressing the revolt, catching Judah Maccabee, his name was Nicanor. And Nicanor, he lost a battle to Judah Maccabee, and he was furious, so he returned to Jerusalem, which was under his control, and he threatened the entire Jewish nation. And he pointed to the temple and he said, if Judah Maccabee is not delivered to me, I will destroy this temple. Everyone heard about the threat. They were scared, but Judah Maccabee was not going to surrender, not going to give himself up. So what he did was a daring move. Nicanor, he sent back to the capital to send him reinforcements, and he left Jerusalem, which was his home base, to meet those reinforcements, and he passed by this place, which was known as Hadashah, or in Greek or in English it's known as Adasa. And he saw no sign of Judah Maccabee when he passed through here, and he continued northwest of Jerusalem to a place called Beit Haran. Beit Haran is just behind those hills over there. There's a settlement there which carries the same name, and that was also under Seleucid control. He met up with the reinforcements and started going back to his home base in Jerusalem, and then all of a sudden he passed again through Hadashah. All of a sudden he was ambushed by Judah Maccabee. The Judah Maccabee, his base was that way, the hills of Gofna, but he made a daring move when he headed back toward Jerusalem and placed himself in between the Seleucid army coming from Beit Haran and their home base in Jerusalem, which is in that direction. He was therefore sandwiched between them, but he had the element of surprise because they had passed through here and didn't see him before. He ambushed them, they killed Nicanor, and then the rest of the army, the Seleucid army, fled towards the coast, towards Gezer, in that direction. So that battle happened on the 13th of Adar. It's recorded in the Book of Maccabees 1, the Book of Maccabees 2, in the writings of Josephus, and also in Megillat Ta'anit. And Judah Maccabee cut off Nicanor's head. He cut off his right arm that pointed at the temple and threatened to destroy it. And he hung the head and right arm of Nicanor on the walls of the Acre fortress in Jerusalem. He returned to Jerusalem triumphantly, retook control of the city, and declared that the 13th of Adar should be a holiday that the Jewish people would never forget. and they accepted upon themselves that the 13th of Adar would be Yom Nikanor, and it would be a back-to-back holiday with Purim, which was the next day. But alas, the holiday sort of fell out of use over the centuries, and it became Ta'anit Esther. So Ta'anit Esther is not, it doesn't say in Megillat Esther to fast on the 13th of Adar. It's not mentioned in the Mishnah, not mentioned in the Gemara, but it became a custom that was adopted sometime in the Gaonic period, so around the 8th century. And actually, in a book known as Masechet Sofrim, it records that the Jewish community in Israel, they had the custom to keep this fast of Esther, not on the 13th of Adar, but rather after Purim, because they still had that tradition that the 13th of Adar was the special day of Yom Nikanor, as it was called. So, I know what you're thinking. You know, why do we Jews always do this to ourselves? We had a happy, fun day, Yom Nikanor, and instead we forgot it and made it a depressing day of fasting. But I think there's something special about Ta'anit Esther that makes it different from other fasts, which are days of mourning. It's more of a day of repentance, similar to Yom Kippur perhaps. We remember how Esther fasted and the Jewish nation fasted so that they could pray to God to deliver them from their enemies, and that's what happened on the battle that was eventually fought on the 13th of Adar. And then the next day they rested and was Purim. As a matter of fact, there are some commentators, Rabbi Hai Gaon and Rabbeinu Tam, that say that really fast on Ta'anit Esther to remember the fast of the Jewish people on the day of the battle of the 13th of Adar, because it was an ancient custom of Israel to fast on the day of important battles and pray out to God. It's mentioned in Sefer Shmuel, for example. King Shaul declares a fast during the battle. And also, I think that the fact that we have this somber day of Ta'anit Esther before the happy day of Purim perhaps was the template, the inspiration for the later idea of Yom HaZikaron being right before Yom HaAtzmaut. It's a day to enhance the holiday that comes after it, to remember how it is that we won, how the repentance was an important part of meriting that victory, and appreciate more the holiday of Purim.